A cloud of suspicion surrounds the deaths of Oscar-winning actor Gene Hackman and his wife, whose bodies were found in their Santa Fe home. No one had seen the couple for days, and authorities say they had been dead for some time.
Hidden beneath Gene Hackman's private library was a tunnel never meant to be discovered. When federal agents entered his fortress-like New Mexico estate, they allegedly uncovered an underground chamber and a welded-shut door hiding something dangerous. Why would one of Hollywood's most respected actors build such an impenetrable property? And what was hidden beneath the home that remained secret for years? The answers lead deep underground, where mystery, secrecy, and disturbing questions collide, revealing a side of Hackman's life the public never knew existed. The discovery and initial investigation. On February 26, 2025, authorities arrived at Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa's secluded home outside Santa Fe, New Mexico, after concerns were raised about the couple's welfare. Hackman, one of Hollywood's most celebrated actors, had largely disappeared from public life after retiring from filmmaking. At 95, he preferred privacy, rarely appearing at industry events and spending most of his time with Betsy, away from the spotlight. That made the silence surrounding the property seem ordinary, until someone finally looked inside. What deputies encountered immediately transformed a routine welfare check into a major investigation. Betsy was discovered inside the home, while Hackman was found in another part of the residence. One of their dogs was also dead. There were no obvious signs of a violent confrontation, yet the circumstances were unusual enough that investigators could not immediately explain what had happened or establish exactly when each person had died. The condition of the scene only complicated matters. Prescription medications were found nearby, personal belongings remained inside the house, and there was initially no clear explanation for why two people had died within the same property. Investigators considered possibilities ranging from environmental exposure to carbon monoxide poisoning, while firefighters and utility personnel were brought in to examine whether a gas leak or another household hazard could have been responsible. Those possibilities gradually began falling away. Testing did not uncover the kind of carbon monoxide levels that would explain the deaths, and authorities reported no evidence of a gas leak capable of slaying the couple. Investigators also found no obvious indication that someone had broken into the residence. Whatever had happened appeared to have unfolded quietly, without the kind of physical disturbance normally associated with a violent crime. Then came the timeline. Evidence suggested Betsy had died before her husband. Hackman's pacemaker recorded its final activity days later, giving investigators an important clue about when he likely died. The gap raised a heartbreaking question. How could Hackman have remained inside the home after Betsy's death without seeking help? The eventual medical findings provided part of the explanation. Betsy's death was attributed to hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, a rare but potentially deadly respiratory illness associated with exposure to infected rodents. Hackman died from severe cardiovascular disease, with advanced Alzheimer's disease listed as a significant contributing factor. Investigators said it was possible his condition prevented him from fully understanding that Betsy had died. That explanation clarified the tragedy, but the investigation had already drawn extraordinary attention to a life Hackman had spent decades keeping remarkably private. Reporters descended on Santa Fe. Every publicly available detail about the property, the couple's final days, and Hackman's secluded retirement suddenly became part of a much larger story. And the deeper investigators looked into those final days, the more striking the contrast became. Hackman had spent his career as one of the most recognizable actors in America, yet his final chapter unfolded almost completely beyond public view. There were no cameras documenting his daily routine, no constant celebrity appearances, and few outsiders who could describe exactly what life inside the property had been like. His isolation had successfully protected his privacy for years, now that privacy was being examined room by room. The deaths themselves had explanations, but they opened the door to another question. Just how much of Hackman's private world had remained invisible to everyone outside it? Because understanding what happened inside the house meant first understanding the unusually guarded life Hackman had built around it. And that story begins with the estate itself. The fortress above ground held many mysteries, But what it guarded beneath was pregnant with history and silence. The fortress-like estate. Gene Hackman's estate was not a typical home, but a carefully engineered installation surrounded by layers of defense. Dense forests hugged its edges, while towering stone walls enclosed the property like a prison. Motion sensors monitored every entrance, and thermal cameras tracked all movement, creating a surveillance system comparable to some government black sites. The acreage appeared less like a residence and more like a protected compound. The staff that maintained the estate were hand-picked, deeply vetted, and legally bound to silence. Over the decades, gardeners, housekeepers, chefs, and security personnel worked under strict agreements that prevented leaks or public disclosures. In an age of social media oversharing, the complete absence of stories or anonymous accounts was extraordinary, evidence that the silence was intentional and enforced. Even local journalists found their investigations into building permits and property status blocked by redactions and unexplained gaps in records. One historian who researched the land abruptly ceased contact, never publishing a single finding. This web of obfuscation suggested forces at work beyond ordinary privacy concerns, hinting at protected secrets layered in bureaucracy and legal bindings. Inside the walls of the mansion, the contrast was striking. Corridors displayed original masterworks and centuries-old furniture. Some pieces rumored to have graced European palaces. Rare botanical specimens filled the gardens, carefully cultivated and as unique as the estate's art collection. The beauty and sophistication of the estate disguised its true nature, a museum crafted within a military fortress. An architectural historian who later assessed the property described it as a blend of elegance and extreme security. The estate's aesthetic charm was real, she said, but the countermeasures, cameras, motion detectors, secure communications, were designed to keep something very specific out of sight. This duality underlined the complex purpose behind the estate's construction. When deputies entered after the discovery, their body cam footage recorded an eerie silence, broken only by evidence of recent activity inside the house. Furniture had been dragged across floors, books rearranged, drawers left open, and a safe was found emptied. The scene suggested someone was searching desperately, either trying to find or conceal something before law enforcement arrived. This pattern of secretive care above ground matched the mysteries lying below. The estate was both a sanctuary and a tomb, guarding physical beauty and concealed truths with equal vigilance. It was clear the home existed not solely for living, but as a place of containment. The careful watchfulness and isolation painted a portrait of a man and property deeply entwined with secrecy. But beneath all this vigilance lay an even darker enigma, waiting to be revealed. The tunnel beneath the library was the right place to look for answers. The hidden tunnel and its origins. Behind a discreet section of Hackman's private library wall, agents triggered a hidden mechanism not unlike a puzzle requiring a secret code. This entryway was not a simple sliding bookcase or concealed latch, but a precisely engineered device demanding specific knowledge to unlock. Opening it revealed stone steps descending sharply into total darkness, with no lights or ventilation, plunging deep into the earth below the estate. As the agents descended, the temperature dropped, and air thickened with dampness and the metallic scent of rust. Their flashlights illuminated carved stone walls, densely inscribed with precise markings that immediately stood out. Nothing casual or decorative. The inscriptions ranged from alchemical symbols to technical blueprints depicting machines that defied known engineering and eras. Closer examination revealed a blend of construction styles. Near the entrance, the tunnel showed signs of modern reinforcement. Mid-20th century poured concrete with machine-cut edges and industrial materials. But as they ventured deeper, the workmanship grew older and rougher. Hand-carved joints, primitive tool marks consistent with chisels and picks. An independent structural engineer suggested the core tunnel might be over 100 years old, or even older. According to expert analysis, Hackman did not build this passage. Instead, he inherited it, moving into a place with an existing subterranean legacy layered beneath his estate. Over time, the tunnel had been modernized and reinforced to suit contemporary needs, but remained rooted in an older, mysterious history. At the bottom, a vast chamber had been preserved nearly intact. Stacks of ancient crates sagged with age, some broken open, spilling yellowed documents and unidentifiable artifacts onto the stone floor. Items seemed to originate from different eras and places, none clearly matching known historical records, a disjointed archive of secrets. One particularly chilling discovery was a collection of fragile photographs depicting unknown faces in clothing from a century past. Some images captured clandestine meetings in windowless rooms. Others showed underground locations recorded nowhere officially. Among them was a photograph dated 1937 with a single inscrutable word in an unidentified language. Accompanying the images were leather-bound files filled with redacted names, coded dates, and passages erased from history. Some pages were partially burned, as if someone tried to destroy the evidence but was interrupted. Others bore watermarks from organizations officially dissolved decades ago, suggesting these materials had been deliberately hidden away. This tunnel was not just a forgotten passage, but a repository of a lost or secret history, carefully guarded and unknown even to those closest to Hackman. The question was no longer just what was down there, but why it mattered so much to remain buried, and what connection Hackman had to it all. The underground chamber held mysteries that would challenge everything already uncovered above ground. The underground chamber's contents. At the bottom of the tunnel, agents encountered a vast chamber that seemed frozen in time. Stacks of wooden crates, some collapsed with age, were scattered across the stone floor. Inside these containers were yellowed documents, rusted metal objects, and artifacts that defied identification or clear historical origin. The sheer range of items suggested a deliberately curated collection, something meant to be preserved, but hidden away from the world. Among the discoveries were fragile photographs showing faces no one recognized, dressed in fashions from a century ago. Some images captured secret meetings in windowless rooms, while others depicted underground locations unknown on any official maps. One black-and-white photograph was carefully dated 1937, marked with a single mysterious word written in an unknown language on the back, deepening the enigma. Leather-bound files rested alongside the crates, filled with coded dates, redacted names, and passages hinting at deliberate erasures from the historical record. Some pages bore scorch marks, evidence that someone had attempted destruction but had stopped for unknown reasons. Other documents carried watermarks linked to organizations officially dissolved decades ago, indicating these materials had long been the focus of concealment. The volume of material was staggering, too immense for a quick review. Specialists estimated it could take experts years, possibly a decade, to catalog and conserve everything properly. Many papers were so brittle that they began to crumble under the slightest touch, while others, sealed inside oiled leather portfolios, appeared to have been written very recently, revealing a puzzling gap in preservation. Among the recovered texts were 3 separate ledgers written in an intricate mix of Latin, French, and an indescribable script. Linguists consulted on the case have withheld detailed commentary, underscoring the material's complexity and unusual nature. Maps were also found depicting the American Southwest, yet with borders and settlements that mirrored no known historical period, suggesting an alternate or hidden geography. Sealed glass vials packed in straw were included in the haul, their contents unknown and yet another mystery. Additionally, 2 objects were logged with the terse classification "Instrument Unidentified, Do Not Open," signaling the presence of devices considered too sensitive or dangerous for casual handling. Yet the physical items were only part of the unsettling revelation. Deep within the chamber's farthest wall, agents discovered an iron door unlike anything else, a heavy steel barrier welded shut with no hinges or handle visible. This wasn't built to keep visitors out. It was intended to imprison whatever lay beyond. The full extent of what the FBI found behind that door remains a closely guarded secret, fueling speculation and unease. This sealed threshold represented a boundary not just in stone and metal, but between what is known and what authorities are unwilling to disclose. Emerging from the shadows of accumulated secrets, the chamber's locked door cast a long, forbidding shadow over everything uncovered to that point. The locked iron door, The iron door set deep into the chamber's rear wall was unlike any ordinary barrier. Its surface was corroded, with welding marks running along every seam, and its construction was military-grade steel, far beyond the needs of regular storage. Rivet patterns matched those used in high-security government facilities built in the 1950s, suggesting an origin tied to classified projects rather than a private collector's whim. This door was built not to welcome entry, but to contain something powerful and dangerous. Its design offered no external handle or hinges, signifying that it was sealed permanently from inside the chamber. The question of what lurked beyond that imposing wall became the defining mystery of the entire investigation. Surrounding the door, the chamber floor was remarkable in its own right. Intricately carved circular patterns formed celestial maps, a star chart of constellations, planetary orbits, and precise astronomical alignments. These carvings demanded advanced mathematical skill and thoughtful instrumentation to create, implying whoever made them was mapping or marking something of profound significance for an eventual visitor who would understand how to read it. Among the recovered tools were objects that defied known manufacturing techniques, including a palm-sized metal cylinder with rotating internal rings, cast as a single piece with no visible seams or assembly marks. Even modern metallurgical processes struggle to replicate such craftsmanship, hinting at a level of technology or knowledge far ahead of its supposed time. Experts who have reviewed these findings privately emphasize that the extraordinary security and craftsmanship point to something beyond simple artifact collection. Dr. James Whitfield, a former FBI forensic analyst, summed it up. Such silence and secrecy usually indicate either embarrassment or discovery of something so significant it surpasses normal investigative boundaries. In this case, embarrassment seems unlikely. Theories swirl around whether Hackman was a guardian of forbidden knowledge or an unwilling inheritor of a burden placed upon him. His decision to seal this door and live in isolation near it suggests a deep connection to its contents, whether to protect or to hide from them. Local rumors add layers to this mystery. Neighbors recall inexplicable low-frequency vibrations and unmarked vehicles coming and going at odd hours. Those close to the estate describe sounds and sightings that hint at ongoing concealment and activity beneath the surface. Even those who worked inside vanished quietly, their stories erased as thoroughly as the contents behind the door. What could warrant such extreme secrecy? The locked iron barrier stands as a silent sentinel to an answer the world is not yet ready to hear, reminding us there are doors meant never to open, and that some truths lie buried too deep for daylight. Behind that door, history, power, and danger remain locked in shadows waiting for their story to be told. The legacy and silence. Gene Hackman's final years were marked by seclusion and silence, but those closest to him remember a warm, approachable man who valued genuine connection. His barber in Santa Fe recalled how Hackman would visit regularly, share stories about his childhood and literature, and tip generously. At local markets, he was a familiar face, purchasing produce and quietly supporting community causes. That warmth contrasts sharply with the fortress he later built around himself and the secrets buried beneath his home. Hackman wasn't a recluse out of dislike for others. Something compelled him to withdraw, to guard whatever lay beneath that estate more fiercely than any Hollywood role he had played. Throughout his career, he portrayed characters trapped in conspiracies or shadowy worlds, and maybe that art mirrored his own reality. Perhaps the lines between actor and guardian blurred, making the burden he carried a lifelong role beyond the screen. Since the initial discovery, FBI forensics have been working quietly and meticulously, analyzing every artifact, symbol, and document uncovered underground. Teams from divergent fields, linguistics, metallurgy, astronomy, collaborate to decode cryptic messages, unearth faint traces of DNA, and interpret star maps carved into stone. These efforts suggest the find is not only historically significant, but may hold implications that stretch far beyond a simple private collection. Remarkably, the authorities have maintained a stringent information lockdown. Unlike most high-profile cases, there have been no leaks, background briefings, or anonymous sources spilling details. This silence is louder than any official statement, implying the contents of the tunnel might pose ongoing operational or security concerns rather than mere historical interest. The proximity of Hackman's estate to locations deeply tied to America's nuclear and Cold War history further thickens the mystery. Los Alamos and secret government bunkers are just a short drive away, and local lore tells of underground transport systems and bunkers built to last beyond civilization's surface. This link hints that what Hackman guarded could intersect with decades of classified scientific or military endeavors, hidden underground, yet entwined with national secrets. Neighbors recall strange vibrations late at night, and shadowy visitors arriving and departing unseen. Former staff members disappeared quietly, with their digital footprints erased, adding to the estate's aura of secrecy. Water usage far exceeded normal residential amounts, consistent with an underground facility operating beyond public knowledge. These details paint a picture of a layered existence between seen and unseen, surface and depth. Hackman's death left a void not just in Hollywood, but in the stewardship of whatever he protected. The man who knew every corridor of that labyrinth is gone, leaving the secret to others now. The iron door, sealed tight and never meant to reopen, remains locked, a symbol of forbidden knowledge and the cost of carrying such a burden. From a celebrity death to hidden tunnels and sealed secrets, Gene Hackman's story reveals a profound mystery beneath the surface. It reminds us that sometimes the greatest stories are the ones we're not meant to uncover. If this fascinated you, like the video and subscribe for more deep dives into the world's most extraordinary mysteries.